I'm
Anya?
live. I'm live.
Okay.
I'm live.
Oh, you are. Okay, good. Didn't show up on my Twitch. So welcome Sunday, of course. Uh, uh, we are running this Work the Web training program, and during the weeks we are doing more of training sessions, and on weekends we do more discussions and solving problems together and so on. And so this is a more of a free form discussion meeting, but we're very happy to have Tassila with us today that will help us to understand even more about the potential project that we can be running as a community project within this training program. Crusader gave us a very good overview of the live site yesterday. That was really exciting. And so today we can continue where we left off yesterday. Um, it's been 24 hours since, and we all have thought about this project intensely, I guess, or we have more questions, or I don't know how, if you want to talk a little bit about how this project came about and what your thoughts are about its future, and what you would like to get out of a collaboration with a development team like this one that is community based, and and so on. um, so yeah, let's pick up where we left off yesterday. um, Crusader, you were leading the discussion yesterday, so perhaps you can just give us a quick overview again and introduce the discussion.
I mean, same thing again, like yesterday. Is anybody here who
You're
was?
muted at this point.
Okay, like same introduction as yesterday, or just
No,
you
no, just just
follow
just an
follow up,
overview
right?
and a follow. Yeah, just a continuation.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, long story short, let me share my screen again. There is this beautiful project called Senf uh, Köln, which is German for Cologne, and that has been programmed by Tassilo. I explained to you yesterday what it does, and actually, I would like to give the word to Tassilo. Maybe he has some ideas what he expects out of this. I think his opinion is as important as mine. I have a lot of ideas what we could do. Just to sum it up, that was basically we could deploy it on Akash, which is a blockchain-based hosting service which operates at a third of the cost of what AWS can offer. So Amazon Web Services, some localization that has nothing to do with the blockchain. We could do the voting on a blockchain system. We would have to transform the project as a first step to make it open sourceable, do some cleanups. Thomas, you said we could do some tests. And when I showed you this, I would basically like to turn the word over to Tassilo and let him give us some ideas what he expects from this and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, thank you so much for this great opportunity. Yes, I was really happy to hear about this because I actually started this project with a tutorial explaining of how to create a platform where you can post ideas and or like post posts like Twitter-like platform. I always try to get one step further and being realistic about this. So this is now a complete new like um, possibility for me to even think about blockchain technology. And yes, I think the voting system with blockchain together, this would be like a huge enhancement of the product itself. And I think for this, maybe also other parts need to um, be adapted, especially this thing that it can be open sourceable, because there's still like I had some problems of how to like, because I couldn't work with the .env file because I was hosting at Firebase. I don't know if you know about the service of Google. Firebase is a data platform. I'm also not too sure if this is a reliable data sort like I don't know if we can go on with this. It wouldn't be a problem to me if we change it, but if you say this is completely fine, even better. Yeah. So I'm really amazed. I really wonder like what you think about the code, because right now I'm not too sure if you will like it too much this way it is. But I think there's just so many possibilities, and I think the blockchain behind the voting system is just one. Christian also like had so many ideas before in the meeting we had of what we could do there with it, like crowdfunding behind these specific projects for city development. I think there's, yeah.
I know that there was a few questions. A few people wondered yesterday, Cameron among others, and what the current tech stack is. You mentioned Firebase, but in terms of the backend code and the client and so on, what is it written in?
So the client code is written in React.js,
Mhm.
and yeah, the backend code and Node.js.
Node.js, okay. All right.
And it's there's some additional Python functions for enhancing some information users put in when they create a document, and
Okay.
yeah, that's all.
So, and in practical terms, do you host this on? Do you host this in several repositories? Are you using version control at this point? Practical things like that.
Well, yes, I have a GitHub repository, which is at the moment private because I couldn't manage to hide some information which should be.
I got you. Yeah. And is the Python stuff and the React app hosted in one single repo, or are there two repositories? And the Node.js backend.
It's all in one repository, but okay. I'm hosting like manually from terminal
cool.
with npm run and Firebase deploy.
Cool. Awesome. So we were, let me jump ahead a little bit. If we or when we get started, yesterday I coined this idea. I think Crusader approve of that, and I don't know what the rest of the team thinks. But before we get started with releasing the code to everyone in the team, we could spend a few sessions making it or hiding away those credentials and making it suitable for open source. So that would probably be one of the first steps that we would have to take. So you feel confident that your data will not leak, of course, and that we can spin up some staging servers or development servers so people can actually work and see, deploy to that server before we actually make production or things like that. Another question, do you write automated tests? Is this in a way, is this software tested somehow?
Nope. I didn't.
Okay, all right.
Before.
Which brings us to, so you probably do not use continuous integration or continuous deployment pipelines either. No.
I don't know about this.
No, okay, no problem. We can work.
But I'm happy to get to know this.
Yeah, well, I'm happy that you're happy about it, to get to know that you're open to those ideas, because it's all about building like a platform or baseline that we can assure quality in everything we deploy. So the way I look at it, we probably need to work on two fronts, which is good because we are a fairly big but also diverse development team, with people with different backgrounds. So one thing would be to A, make it also open sourceable, B, cover the legacy code in getting to know the legacy code to start with, right? And one good way of learning a code base is to start writing tests for functionality that is already in place. In that way, by doing that, you also understand more and more about the things that are actually already happening in the code. That also, another side effect of that process is that you can find areas of improvement or suggest improvements like refactoring of certain functionality. But it's also, it's a backward leaning kind of work, right? You do not add new functionality, but rather just to make sure that whatever already exists holds up and has good quality. But then you want to start adding new functionality, which would be another, a parallel work, right? We can assign some developers to do that as well, right? So covering the legacy code with tests and improving on that on the solutions that are already there on one front, and on another front we would look into new functionality and start adding stuff to it, and the end result will be, probably, hopefully, a good standard and then some improvements, so I don't know if that sounds viable to you guys.
It sounds amazing.
Good stuff. Hold on a second, guys. Hold on.
Good to see you, Tassilo.
Yeah, good to see you too.
So what would be the next step, guys, or the team? What do you guys think? It's Carl, for instance. What's your take on this? All right, we have that sound issue again. That's cool.
Carl, you're on the wrong thing, I believe.
Crusader, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so I think another thing we should cover is how do we structure the project. Also, you asked me to be your product owner, so I think we also need some kind of structured process. I'm thinking about the lines, just throwing some ideas in there. Just, do we want to use Scrum? Do we have a Kanban board? Do we work with user stories? Do we then do some certain sprints? And then to what extent am I going to go in the product owner role, where I basically be the counterweight to your developer interests, where I kind of push for new features and to actually bring the project forward. I mean, obviously I am a developer, so you will have an easier time of convincing me of certain things. But I think, first of all, how do we structure that, and how do we organize the team? How do we give this a framework so everything works out structured and we have an overview at all times?
Right. That's a very good thing. Carl, are you on a working audio solution now?
No.
Now you are, and we can hear you.
It's working.
But it's weird. I mean, I was on the laptop even when I was speaking earlier. Sorry, this kind of threw me off. But yes, this all sounds good. And like what you were suggesting, first phase would be to make it open sourceable.
Cool. Pedro, your thoughts?
Yeah, I do have a lot of questions yet. Things are not set in stone, so they're going to be answered in the meantime. Currently, the Firebase is hosting the data, right? But the solution itself should be hosted somewhere as well. That will be somewhere else, or is Firebase as well?
Where the data is in Firebase, the functions are in Firebase. Yeah, I think everything is actually in Firebase. Also, the Python functions are in Firebase.
Can I ask why do you choose Firebase?
Well, because the tutorial I found was with Firebase, and
oh, it was the easiest solution. It was low-hanging fruit. I understand that. So the entire database is on Firebase, and you also mentioned Python solutions. Are they? This is code that you wrote, and okay, all right. Okay. But you're not. I mean, I know that. I mean, Mirsad is not here today, or is he? I don't think so. So he's a great Firebase fan, so he could probably help us optimize that solution if we stick to Firebase. He's an expert on that platform. I personally just used it sporadically, so I'm not an expert in any way. But we can definitely figure it out somehow. We have a raised hand from Crusader again. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, so I wanted to suggest basically, since we are all a bit excited about the whole possibilities of blockchain, I actually have a stack in mind where we could potentially move everything that is in the DevOps space onto a blockchain-based technology stack, from hosting to the database, even to the name service, if we want to do that. I just wanted to let you know. I can give you some input, throw you some names, and then we can do the research together and then decide after we did the research if we want to do that.
But sounds like a crazy project. All Web3, woohoo!
Yeah, well, that would be pretty awesome actually if we could use that, so we can connect the dots and use. I think this decentralized cloud would be really interesting to work with, and that could be a very good reference project for everyone involved here, for the charity itself, for you, Tassilo, and for us individual developers. That I know that your everyone's CVs would, increase in value a lot by doing that. So I would definitely vote for that. In one way, I am always a great fan of picking the lowest hanging fruit. So therefore, I totally understand why you chose Firebase, because if that was the easiest solution, then definitely that's what one would always choose. Here we would, if we go decentralized, then we go for the hardest solution, actually, unproven or unknown to us, which is in itself fantastically exciting. So I would definitely go with that, with a fallback plan. If the shit hits the fan, we need to be able to just go for the traditional, Amazon Web Services, sell our soul to the devil again. But it's as long, because at the end of the day, the project needs to work, right? So even if we choose the fancy, cool stuff, yes, that's awesome. But let's have a working solution as well, always in mind. Right? The question, and guys, feel free to raise up your hand or let me know if you want to ask a question, because otherwise I just keep on talking as usual. Kanban versus Scrum is of course a big question, so we need to talk about that at some point, or make that decision. Or we can also go with Scrumban, which is like a combination of both of them, which is usually not a very good solution, I would say. But we're gonna have to make a decision on that. Carl, you raised your hand.
The only thing I'm wondering about, because our goal is also to kind of have something showable or MVP by the 4th of September. So that I guess you'll use your expertise, Thomas, in planning the project, if it's all realistic.
Oh, so the time is short, of course. So we're gonna have to. The short answer is yes, it is realistic. B, it depends, of course, on what the scope is, right? How much of a bite we take of the whole thing. Managing scope is one of the most important things here. So we need to be careful, so we don't take on too much work. But I think definitely we can have something done at that time frame. And also, as we said before, just because the September comes and goes, it doesn't mean that we can't continue to work on this project as a community, of course. Anja.
Yeah, I actually just what's still not exactly clear to me, Tassilo, is So is there any new feature? I mean, apart now, except from all the blockchain stuff and potential for voting system on a blockchain and potential for locking funds, etc. But apart from that, is there anything that you wanted as a new feature?
Well, there's so many things that can happen. First thing in mind was always like having a valuable petition system so that your vote counts as a petition vote, which could go well with the blockchain together. The other part is crowdfunding projects, which was even the higher hanging fruits to me. Because like I'm having this live in Cologne for a few months now, and we had been in hundreds of meetings with initiatives in Cologne, bigger initiatives who needed a platform like this before, whom I also enhanced this platform for, like where they said like we need a certain function like a calendar, and from many sides there came this request to have a functionality to open up when you share an idea for city development, that you can also make it as a group base, so that you can say, hey, I really want to participate in this idea. So then you can ask the guy who started the project to if he can join the project, and then you can have like a chat in there, a to-do list, maybe even some direct connection to city offices. So if you want to start a project in like urban gardening or whatever, that it's not only an idea that you can see, but where you can directly participate, which is which was an idea for like the second half of this year for me to tackle. But I think first of all, I have a little issues with the performance of the platform with like I'm not handling the data requests how it should be. Like I don't have pagination implemented, but also because I don't know how to make it work, that filtering is working at the same time while the map is showing all the dots and the list. Yeah. So I think.
So it makes sense to to make everything rock solid before anything new happens.
Yeah, well, at the end, I think it's. I don't have a saying here, because I think it's also about that you have the project that you want to have, right? So if you say we can have this in the focus also in the project, then that would be amazing.
Cool. Right. Do we have any raised hands? I see. I should see that here, right? No. Okay. Right. So we have to figure out the next step now, right? I think we need to set a to-do list. I do feel that at this point, or I don't know. So for instance, like if we choose the project management protocol, right? Kanban was mentioned and Scrum was mentioned. Now, are we sure that the team is well informed or informed enough to be able to make that distinction? What is the best thing? I see a few nods. The opposite of nods. What is the opposite of nods in English? The people are shaking their head. That's what it is. Yeah, exactly. So that is not really the case yet. So we probably need to talk a little bit about the pros and cons of Kanban versus Scrum. The question of an issue tracker, right? Because we probably, when independent of what we choose, we need to choose some sort of software-based, like cloud-based, piece of software that helps us keep track of requirements and the board and everything, right? So I am quite used to using Pivotal Tracker. We can use a Kanban board on GitHub. They have support for that. We can use Trello. We can, there are many alternatives. Tassilo, have you used any issue tracker for this? Like, how do you plan your work at this stage?
Well, as I'm developing on my own, I'm using Google Keep,
Okay.
which is like a to-do list. But I've been working before, not as a developer, but with Jira.
Jira, okay.
Too unnecessarily big, and this, or I don't know. Trello was also something I used before.
Does anyone else, Crusader, do you have a preference of any boards?
Yeah, so for the issues, I'm not sure if the Git issues are powerful enough to do what we want to do. If you have something better, then I would say we go with that. I like Trello a lot. I work with it. I know how to use it, and I would also suggest that Tassilo and I make a well, so gut gepflegtes and continuously well preserved product backlog that changes when certain user stories have been done. So I think Tassilo and I should start with a product backlog and certain user stories, and then throw you those over. And in the first sprint planning, you can then transform those into issues and tickets, and then we do a kind of voting style, which tickets make it into the first sprint, and then we have the sprint, and then we have a sprint review, and probably do this in quite short iterations. This is how I would do it and how I have worked and organized projects so far.
Carmen, you raised your hand.
Yes, hello everybody. So basically, I'm just, it's more like a logistic question. The difference between Pivotal Tracker and Trello, are they still free for open source?
I know that Pivotal Tracker is free. I'm pretty sure that we can also use Trello for free for open source.
Oh, okay, because Trello was acquired by Jira, right, by Atlassian. So I'm not sure if it still is free. But that's what I.
Do you know how long ago?
And I don't know. Maybe within the past 2 years. But and then
sorry.
The other question I have is, maybe you can, you Thomas, as an expert on this, you could kind of like give like a general description, because I heard a lot GitHub issues versus Kanban or all the other tools. My understanding is GitHub issues for other things, tracking stories and stuff like that. Because I see it, and I'm getting confused too. I see a lot of confusion. So like before even deciding which tool or what are we going to do, maybe if we have like a general idea, I think it will be a good step. That's my suggestion. No, yeah.
I feel you. All right. So what if if that's possible for you guys, what if we pause the discussion about the project for a period of, I don't know, 45 minutes, which means in my time probably hour and a half, and I can talk you through some points about user stories, the planning phases, so I have a short slide deck. Well, it's not that short, it's actually 31 slides. But
I was just gonna ask, because I know that Tassilo is on vacation, so I'm just wondering whether we still need him at this stage. Otherwise, we could just release him for him to enjoy.
For vacation type activities.
Yeah.
Of course. Absolutely. We could, Tassilo, if you can't stick around, don't stick around at this point. But I think that it would be good if we can make a few decisions today, but nothing. I mean, we're not in that much of a hurry. So we could, if we could reconvene on Tuesday, Tassilo, if you could join us then.
No, for me it's completely fine. I'm really happy about this meeting today. So I'm definitely gonna stay.
Okay, all right, Crusader, go ahead.
That's also, I also wanted to say I definitely have to leave in somewhere around 1 hour and 15 minutes.
I will keep this really short, so we can actually come back and make a few decisions. So what I would like to do is to briefly go over those slides, because I want to introduce the team to certain terminology. Then I would like to just do a very quick comparison, as Carmen indicated, or asked about, like I can show you Pivotal Tracker, and then just compare it to the simplest tool, which is the GitHub issues, right? And because Trello, Jira, and all of the others, they fall somewhere in between in terms of complexity, ZenHub and so on, right? So if that's okay with you guys, I would we could move on with that for now and see if we can learn something from this, and continue this discussion right after. Is that okay? Good stuff. All right. So let me share my screen, and again, I try to talk as briefly as possible. Let's see. My entire screen. We can choose this one, and then we can go this. All right. So let me see. Right, you do see my screen now. Okay. So I named this. This talk Agile Just Enough Upfront Design. Now, so you guys remember I was talking a little bit about Agile a few meetings ago, and some of the myths was that we don't plan so much in Agile, and I think nothing could be further from the truth. We do plan, but we can't make up plans for things we don't know much about, which is the biggest shortcoming of the waterfall project methodology. So we often talk about just enough upfront design. Just design the things that you know something about, and answer the questions that you can actually formulate. And so we do speak about something we call a design sprint, or that's a very specific sprint that is devoted to design work. But then we also talk about continuous design during an agile project. And I just want to introduce you to a few things in that process, in terminology that we use, and then give you some tips and tricks on how certain things can really be connected to the work that we do as developers in practical terms. So if we talk about the design sprint, usually there are many definitions of a design sprint, but it's a time constrained, often phase-based process that employs design thinking to reduce the risk when bringing a new product or service to the market. There's a bit of a traditional definition of a design sprint, and this can be done in many different ways, and every team can choose a method that works for them. But the main objective is to create a backlog of feature requests that are not only a long wish list, but they are also described in a very structured way. They are discussed and understood by the entire team. But there's also a few things that needs to be present, in my opinion, and that is the definition of done and an assessment of complexity of each feature before anyone starts to work on the actual implementation. And the definition of done and the complexity is really important, because it helps us to together with the way we describe each feature, to prioritize things depending on the amount of resources that we have to our disposal, and the time that we or the time frame we have to work with at each time. So we want to gather the requirements and formulate some sort of a plan in order to release, to get into a stage or a state that the release can be actually made, whether it's a proof of concept or a minimum viable product or a new release of the project or whatever, right? So here we talk about the MVP, which is one term that is often used in this context, right? Is a state of the solution or the project that provides enough features to satisfy the needs or solve the problem and satisfy the needs of early customers, so that we can gather feedback and validate whatever we have built, gather feedback so we can use for future product development. Right. So if we talk about how we can describe each project, so I usually talk about something called epics, user stories, and some other terminology. So let's talk about what do we mean when we talk about epics in a project. So an epic is usually a large body of work that can be broken down into smaller tasks. So if we take a look at a big let's say customer relationship management, so an epic could be adding customers, following customers, or sending emails, or updating databases, or running periodic things, right? So an epic is a part of the application itself that has some sub requirements under it, and then we talk about stories or features, basically. And if we look, here's a screenshot from a tool called Pivotal Tracker. I mentioned it before. So again, an epic has many stories. So in this case, we have one epic that is called order confirmation and preparation, and then we have another one called generate a request for delivery, whatever that is, and then all of these epics, or some of them, has certain feature requests. So if we talk about order confirmation, then you have the different stories in those. That was really a shitty screenshot, so forget about that one. Anyway, let's talk about user stories instead, which are parts of the epic. So a user story is a very high level definition of a requirement that contains just enough information so that a developer can actually use that story to think about what kind of work will it take to implement it. And the goal with defining these stories is to try to capture requirements needed to deliver the solution. And it can help us, of course, to understand what to do, because it sets the scope of a feature, but it can also help us to understand how to do it, which is the connection between this kind of work and actual implementation. I will show you a few examples of that. But the components of a user story are three. These are the stakeholder, the business objective, which is capturing the value that is supposed to deliver, and what is actually needed to be done. So it's formulated as a natural language sentence as a stakeholder in order to gain some sort of a value. I want to be able to do something, and that is the feature itself, right? So let me see. Why is that not here? It should be right. It should be here. There we go. So a format is something like this. We have an example here from a restaurant platform, just to showcase an example. As a system owner, in order to have visitors order food, I would like to present them with a list of participating restaurants. So again, the example is taken from a platform that will list several restaurants and then showcase their menus and provide ordering functionality, right? So if we look at that particular user story, we can extract a lot of information from this format, because we can find class name, method names, desired state, and so on. So this first example, as a system owner, in order to have visitors to order food, I would like to present them with a list of participating restaurants. It's a high-level description of a piece of functionality. And so if we look at this statement, we can extract certain keywords from the sentence. For instance, the stakeholder, right? That in this case is the system owner. That would be a role, which is a person or an account that is authorized to do a lot of things in this system. We have food. We have, in order to have visitors order food. Food could be an object or a product type or something like that. So we gain a little more understanding of what we're talking about. We have restaurants, um, which are also objects probably in our database. But then there is, we talk about participating restaurants, right? Because so again, this is a platform that will operate on city basis or a country basis. I don't know what markets, and there will be restaurants that are not part of the system, and ones that are part, or there could be restaurants that has been participating in this platform but have since been deactivated or something like that. So participating would be a state, and again, by looking at those keywords and extracting a little bit of info, you can make notes or mental notes, and or even take that down in your tracker software to choose certain names, or at least start to formulate naming standards. I think I have another example. As a restaurant owner, we have a different stakeholder here. In order to have visitors order my food, so it's a slightly different business objective. I would like to present them with a list of currently available dishes. And again, here we can extract certain keywords. Restaurant owner is a different role than the system administrator that we had in the first user story. My food is still food. We spoke about that in the first story as well, but here we're talking about my food. So it's the food associated with this particular restaurant. And we talk about currently available dishes. So they are also objects with some state. Let's say that a restaurant can have many dishes on their menu, but only certain of them are available at this very moment, right? We can have different menus for lunch and for evening and so on, right? So you see, by formulating these user stories, you can define scope, but you can also define a lot of components of that particular feature, and how they are supposed to be implemented later on. And so again, naming here is not usually done in a single step. This is just practical advice. Some practical advice. We shouldn't be afraid to change our minds about naming, and be open to changing them later on, because as our systems evolve, grow, the names of our classes, methods, or attributes might prove irrelevant after a while, or even illogical after a certain period of time. So let me just jump back up to the appropriate thing.
Pappa,
Ja, jag är mitt uppe i en grej.
ja, men jättesnällt. Om du vill ha en bit av pizzan så kan du få det.
Okej, men jag tar det sen. Tack så
Eller
mycket.
så skär du upp.
Tack så mycket. Tack så mycket. Hej då, gubben. That's my son. Right. So we often those user stories are these are sentences that helps us to define scope. But we are very visual people, or many of us are. So sometimes you want to make up sketches of the final user interface. So when we do that, we talk about low fidelity sketches or wireframes. And low fidelity sketches are basically exactly what they're supposed to be. They're just drawings or sketches on a piece of paper or on a whiteboard that roughly explain the user journey, or what sort of data is supposed to be included on a screen or something like that. If we talk about behavior-driven design, we always try to look at things from a user perspective, right? And so we make them very rough first time around, because we don't want to be over invested in creating them. They should take 10, 30 seconds, 30 seconds to draw up, so that they can be easily discarded off if we change our mind, right? The alternative are wireframes, which basically are more detailed sketches of what's going on. But it takes much longer time to create a wireframe than it does to create a lo-fi. And so if you have created one, you spent a half a day to define them. And these are just very simple examples. There are many other wireframes that are require much more work. Then you're usually heavily invested in them, and you're not as keen to get rid of them or discard them if they're not accepted by the client, or if you come up with new ideas, right? So my preferred choice initially are lo-fis, just quick and dirty sketches and drafts of a user journey, for instance. And then if they are accepted, they can be transformed into more detailed drawings if needed, for instance, to showcase for a client or a set of users or something like that. And usually also some more technical stuff, perhaps out of place in this. Well, not really. Usually when we talk about user stories, they should describe a specific feature, and a feature should be implemented and integrated into the code base, sorry, using a pull request. And you shouldn't cover more than one story per pull request, right? So we work in small batches, small iterations as much as possible. We try to keep those stories as small as possible. So we prefer the shorter time scale, a day and a half for a pull request rather than weeks or several days, because there are gains of that we can harvest if we work in smaller iterations than longer ones, because as the longer scope or the longer the implementation time is, the bigger the scope is probably, and there is more room for errors and so on. So that should be avoided. We're mentioning here that all pull requests must be reviewed by the Scrum Master, which is nonsense, of course. That shouldn't be here. It should be reviewed by your peers. Code shouldn't be merged or integrated before it has been submitted through peer review, which is something that a lot of people know from their school time. But if you've written some code, you can need a second and a third set of eyes on that. It should be deployed as early as possible to a live server. Acceptance criteria, we're using acronyms here in this slide, unfortunately, have good acceptance criteria, which is the definition of done. So we know that we've actually done the things that we set out to do. And there are some other practical advice here, like links to your tracker software, wireframe if on your pull request, and screenshots if possible, and so on. And again, epics, as we spoke about, those very, very high level user stories. If we are unsure of the process, if it's really big and a new feature, or if it contains multiple steps and stories, then you should, group things into some sort of higher level epics, as we mentioned. So that's one thing. Right, we can talk about voting, but that's a bit irrelevant for now. I'm going to cherry pick this a little bit. Right, so when we talk about new stories, we usually want to start with an idea and wireframes, and check if those lo-fis or wireframes meet all the requirements. So it needs to be discussed with the product owner, of course, because he's the ultimately, or she is ultimately the one that okays any type of development and work with prioritization. We need to formulate some epics, and divide the piece of software or the work that we're going to do into certain main areas. We need to extract those stories from the wireframes, create those acceptance criteria, perhaps work with an entity relation diagram, ERD, which is another acronym. Then we need to sit down with the product owner to prioritize stories and those epics, to put the dev team on track on what should we prioritize and what should we start working on. Make sure that everybody is on board with what we're supposed to do. We do that with a dry run. We go, with this in the design sprint or design backlog, just go over each story again to make sure that everyone understands what needs to be done. Everything that is not bringing any value, any to-do items are referred to as chores usually, at least in Scrum. So we need to define these somehow and make sure that we all know what to do in each sprint. But that's when we talk about if we talk about Scrum as a method or as a set of protocols. If we talk about Kanban, then we don't really have a sprint. We don't divide that into sprints, but rather well, there's a different method in Kanban that is quite relevant. So I think that's a few things in terms of terminology that we use in development. The user stories being the most important one, the definition of done, of course, and then prioritization that is done by the product owner. I just wanted to show you Pivotal Tracker, which is a kind of favorite of mine, I guess. Let's go to another one. We go to this one. So we use Pivotal Tracker extensively in my work. I know we've done it in Agile Ventures before as well. Not sure if they do still. So let's see. So here in Pivotal Tracker, you can see different type of columns, right? So we have, for instance, those epics that I was talking about first, right? So in this particular project, we identified 1, 2, 3, 6, 7 different main areas of the application itself. And if we take a look at the questionnaire, which is one of the most important ones, we can see that it's kind of described here in a specific way. And we can see that this epic contains 11 user stories, for instance, of which 7 has been worked on and delivered, and quite a few of them are still in something we refer to as an icebox in Pivotal Tracker. So Questionnaire Wizard Gathering Inquiries has had quite a few stories that needed to be developed on the API side and on the client side of the application. And each story in itself is described with a title and then a user story in this specific format. So here, for instance, we said, as a broker, that was the stakeholder, in order to provide suggestions to my customer, I want to be able to store inquiries, right? So you have to be in the project to understand this user story, but that was this one at least. And then we had the definition of done, which are like tasks to do. We described that very briefly. We need to make a post request to a specific path. We have to have an inquiry model and so on. And then there was just a note about a specific JSON format for that particular request. And that's how granular you describe those things, right? Some of them are slightly bigger than others, but all of them include this user story format in one way or another. And here we can track, you know, who created it, who requested the story. We can follow it. We can track all the events, what has been going on, and so on. We can also track we can track the history of this story in this case, so we can see all the changes that has been introduced to this one and so on. And that's Pivotal Tracker for you. This is the functionality that comes with PT, basically. So Pivotal Tracker is a very good tool for complex agile projects, but it requires a lot of work, right? All of these things need to be worked with actively, because you know how it is. Every tool is only as good as its users. If you don't use certain features, then it won't be any help to the team at all. But if we look at another, which is the other spectrum of in terms of complexity. What? Remind me later. I don't know. I haven't seen this one. Right. So for website one, we are using this one, very simple Kanban board, where we track some issues, and you can take this issue and move it from to do to in progress, and then over to done if that is it has been delivered. And again, here the only thing you can do is to describe the thing as a set of comments in your in your issues tab. So this one doesn't come with any of the functionality of definition of done or to-do lists or anything like that. So that's a completely different approach to describing the project itself and the various to-do items. For simpler projects, you can I favor this one because Pivotal Tracker can be a definite overkill if the project isn't complex or requires a lot of features or things like that. But for anything with a lot of complexity, I think PT is much better than this, of course. Yeah, so I just wanted to throw that into the mix, of course. I hope it kind of makes sense, guys. Pedro, you raised up your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and while I think that PT can be really good for more complex projects and such, as we are all kind of learning this, and the main focus, I believe, of this, even the summer school, is about development and all these agile methodologies. Maybe we would increase the complexity as we see is actually necessary, and not start with something that's more complex than what we're going to use it for. So that's my opinion. I would like to know yours.
That's a very good point. Anybody else?
Sorry, Thomas, could you elaborate on the difference between Kanban and Scrum? Because I understood it now that Kanban is better for smaller, simpler projects.
Yeah. So usually in Kanban, you kind of work with a different set of protocols than in Scrum, of course, right? But a bit oversimplified, you can say that in a Kanban team, you have a long to-do list, like a wish list of features, right? In this case, only 4, but or 5 in this to-do list, and then you kind of decide that we can only have 2 or 3 or whatever features in progress, right? So you must finish a feature before you move another feature into the in progress column. So let's say that in a team of 8 people, you have 4 pairs, right? So because we want to practice pair programming, so we could decide that only 4 features can be actually worked on at any given moment, right? Or 5 or 6, because sometimes you need to have a code review and peer review and things like that. So that differs from team to team. And we also don't work in sprints, but Kanban is more of a continuous development process. I think that is the biggest difference. And for open source projects, I would say that Kanban is usually more well suited, because it is hard for people in open source projects to devote to sprints, right? When you're at work, you know that you're going to work 8 hours a day and 40 hours a week, and you can predict that it will you know, we have a certain amount of resources, certain amount of time, and we can meet with the client on next Tuesday or Wednesday, and you deliver something and so on, right? So it's much easier in a professional setting. In a volunteer setting in open source, you know, some people can't really devote so much time. Not everyone can take part in daily or bi-daily stand-ups or sprint retrospectives and all of that stuff. So Scrum has a tendency to not work that well for open source, in my experience. So Kanban is a bit more suitable for that. Does that answer your question, Carl?
Yeah, thanks.
Right. Crusader, you wrote a comment that if we work agile, we must also tailor every tool we used to need, meaning we should use it in a way that makes life easier, not uncomplicated. Yes, exactly. So again, I just wanted to show you PT for us because in my opinion, Pivotal Tracker is the most complex and the most suitable tool for large scale projects that are, you know, have a clear set of goals and a dedicated development team. I do not think it's an appropriate one for this project. Although there are certain functions and some functionality here that I think are very useful for for a project of our magnitude, and then on open source and everything, you know. So we need to satisfy our needs, but not be overly complex. You know, if people have good experiences with Trello, for instance, or what have you, we can use those, or we can set up some, you know, some protocols, internal protocols for this team, that even if we use something very simple as GitHub issues, we still gonna always include a user story, for instance, or always include a to-do list, whatever is the definition of done, because I don't think we should you know, remove that from the equation. You know, we should have a user story, we should have a definition of done fairly well described, but that's probably it. You know, we don't need much more than that. And so if we can just have a have a rule that even if we use you know, GitHub issues, we still say something like I do here. And I know Shima is actually working on this at the moment. A new project should be approved by an admin, and we did add a user story here, right? And we can have discussions and so on. Mike asks if Trello has GitHub integration. No clue. I don't know. Does anyone have Trello experience? Yeah, Carmen, you worked with Pivotal Tracker before, right? Haven't you?
Sorry, I was typing and I didn't finish. I was gonna say, yeah, I have worked with Pivotal Tracker, Trello, and Jira. I want to say that actually I found Pivotal Tracker one of the best tools I ever worked to as well. It's been really hard for me to be jumping from one and another, but I understand why people are not using it for small projects. As far as I know, I think that Trello doesn't have integration with GitHub, but I don't want to say 100% doesn't, so I'm not sure. And I was just looking at what you were explaining. I was just looking the one that you guys, the new one, the GitHub one, the Zen Hub. Maybe we can give it a try to that one because it's pretty similar to Trello, but it looks more. I'm not sure how to express this. It looks more suitable for what this project is. I do find it very hard to use Trello, to be completely honest. But that's my experience, my personal experience.
Okay, so we have Carl who raised his hand.
I just wanted to say I've only worked with Trello, and I would like to just like those who've used different things or have more experience. I'm just happy to use whatever the more experienced people suggest.
Okay. Mike, you have worked with ZenHub before, right? Haven't you?
Yeah, we've used it in some Agile Ventures projects, and it's really cool.
So, but just so I understand, so I know that the projects on GitHub is a fairly new feature. Isn't projects like very similar to ZenHub, or does ZenHub bring more to the table than projects?
Yeah, ZenHub brings more. I think the issue of creating features, I would say, like how did you call them? Like
Epics.
Epics. You can create epic and have like tasks within that epic, and work on the epic as a feature, move along, yeah, such like stuff.
Okay.
It's more like Jira.
Okay.
It has more of the feel of Jira.
And so is the difference? Okay, right. And is the difference that Jira is owned by Altasia is not free or something? Is that a free project, or I mean, is it a free tool, Jira?
Yeah, Jira is not free, but ZenHub is for open source.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I don't. So and it's fully integrated into GitHub, right? So
yes, it's fully you just
yeah,
click your issues using GitHub issues, and
yeah, I
yeah.
honestly I felt that this could be like a good tool to give it a try. Because it's already integrated with GitHub, but we're gonna have that for free. We don't have to do the plugin. That I believe you do have to do something like that with other trackers apps that you kind of have to integrate with GitHub, right? I the reason I love user tracker is because it's very clear, and I think it was initially when it was built, it was more like focused on stream programming, versus the other tools is more like Scrum-like, right? So there is a lot of confusion between new issues versus iBox versus, but again, it's up to the team to kind of define what do we want to do. So we could definitely. I just honestly 1 minute ago I never used this ZenHub, but it looks like you can actually define your own columns, and so you can kind of like reduce it onto what it is or how it is PT, for example. And then it has more like visual stuff that doesn't. Again, that's my little sense.
Yeah. So at Craft Academy, where I teach people to code, we always use PT because we have a clear agenda to turn people into really professional coders, right? So they have to overcome those hurdles of, because it's a very tough tool to use to get started with, but that's what we do, and I don't think we should go for that in this project. So I'm leaning towards ZenHub as well. Of all the alternatives, I think that we spoke of, or we haven't really looked at Trello and Jira. I never use them, but Trello is that with 2L? Yeah, it is, right? Crusader, do you have any opinions of like Trello versus ZenHub? I think we can discard PT. People tracker we can put that aside. I don't think that's going to be relevant.
To be honest, I've only used so little, so I will go with whatever you guys feel comfortable and think is the best, because I think you will probably use it much more than I do, and I'm just happy to learn from you on whatever tool you think is best.
All right. Anya, do you have any thoughts?
I guess given that we want to do a lot of things, I'm also a little bit joining what Pedro said earlier, that I wouldn't want to over complexify it right from the beginning. Also, also with the thought that, as you said, we're a bit in a different setup than for a boot camp or for with people who would be coding 8 hours a day and stuff. So I guess the little time that we have, if we spend too much of it getting used to very complex products, I'm a little afraid we won't be moving too far. But maybe I'm wrong, and everyone wants to spend much more time on the project than I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that we should take into consideration that, you know, we are all busy with many other things, and again, some people will probably devote more and some less, and that's the beauty of this agile approach and and social coding. So that's totally okay, and I really want to emphasize that, people don't think that, oh, now we're gonna work with a real project, now I have to work 8 hours a day with it. Don't think that. You can work 2 hours a week, or you can do 20 hours a week. It doesn't matter. It's every contribution is worth its weight in gold. No, but it's really valuable, and some people will do more and some people will do less, and that's perfectly fine. Right. I you know, it's better to make a decision than not make the decisions. So you know, if I we probably don't have to put this to a vote. I would go with ZenHub. That's basically what we need to do, and that's pretty much that's pretty, yeah. Let's just do it. Basically, does the project have a name by any chance?
Well, at the moment it's called Senf.Köln, Senf.Cologne.
That's great. Could you type that in the chat here? Because what we need to do is to create a repository on GitHub at Agile Ventures, and then we have to connect ZenHub to that repo, so we can have an issue tracker, you know, so we can work with issues on that one. So I can take upon myself to create that and share that with everyone. I know that I asked for everyone's GitHub usernames at some point to be posted on the Work the Web Slack channel, and I know that some of you did post those usernames, but I also know that not everyone did that.
Could you maybe invite Crusader? Because I just didn't know whether I even could invite him to that channel. And I guess Tassilo as well.
Yes. Did you guys join Slack yet, by any chance? No? No. So send me, or Anya, could you send me the email addresses in a private message on Slack? And then I take care of that immediately, okay? So I can invite them. So I will invite you to Slack. You have to join Slack, and then I can invite you to that particular channel, basically. Okay. Yeah. So Senf. Yeah. So we're gonna call the project Senf. It's gonna be the best thing. So Ventures. There we go, and we're gonna create a new repository. Senf. Can we call it Senf project? No, let's call it Senf. I don't know.
Yes, amazing.
And it's going to be a public, and it will have a README, and that's about it. And then we got a message from Anya. Thank you. And I will invite. So that's one email address, right? And the second one will probably.
I'm looking for the other.
Good stuff.
Good. Actually, my email address in Slack is different. I think I will just post it in there.
Right. So let's see what we can do with this. Log in. Do I have to log in? How do I log it? What is this? Sign for meets. What is that? Manage your organization.
Oh yeah, I think that's a project that we managed. So the Agile Ventures organization already has projects on Trello.
Oh, we do. Okay.
Yeah, So let me see.
On ZenHub, you mean? Right. Okay.
On ZenHub, yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
Your trial has expired. What the hell is this? With private? No, I don't want to do private repositories.
Yeah.
I don't know how this works.
I think need to
create new works. Do I? Yeah, right. Okay. All right, I got it. I got it. There we go. And add repos. And then we just do send. There we go. Right. So if I do a new issue, and we say test, testing.
Maybe you should have named it update readme.
Huh?
Update readme.
Okay, yeah, update readme. Right. So, yeah, we are live on design. Then hub. Right. No thanks. Whatever. Submit new issue. Okay. And then if I go over to Agile Ventures, send issues. Yes. Yep. So okay. So it updates this automatically from from this board. Okay, and I can move things around here, right? And we can define those things, right? So it automatically created the Icebox product backlog, sprint backlog in progress, review, Q&A. There's quite a few.
It looks like you can actually, this is what I was trying to say earlier, that you don't have to have every column. You can define which one you want to keep it or not, just to keep it simple.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because there's always this confusion between Icebox versus new issues, stuff like that.
Right. Well, we can definitely delete the Icebox and just have a product backlog. So product backlog would be a list of all the features, and then we can, if we decide whether we work in Kanban and or Scrum, then we can just adopt these columns to whatever methodology we're using, right?
Yeah, that was my understanding. But again, I never used this. I was just like browsing it and kind of like poking around. So, but I think it's cool that the fact that it's integrated with GitHub already is really neat.
Right.
I'm kind of happy about this discovery.
Yeah, so we're gonna learn some new stuff. That's good. A new tool under our belt would be great.
So one question that I have, I think it was Mike who have used this before. What's a workspace in this content? Can a workspace have different project, or a workspace is a project? I don't know.
Again, you said workspace?
So what is a workspace in this content? Like
I think it's probably the organization that
okay.
Yeah, because you can have multiple organizations. You can have probably your own.
Well, I would actually say that workspace is not an organization; it's rather the project, right?
Project.
So,
okay.
Yeah, because so we can have multiple GitHub repositories connected to this project, but we only pull issues from one or perhaps not. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So in this case now we have one, but later on when we actually get the legacy code, we're gonna add another repo, and if we might want to make separation between client and backend service repositories, we can use that. So I would say that the workspace idea is about the project itself. Yeah.
Like the meta project, right? Like the big umbrella. We're building
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, that makes sense. Cool.
Right.
Thank you so much for the clarification.
No problemos. Um, right. So Carl, I'm gonna create a thread here. GitHub usernames. Just add them underneath here as replies, because then I can. So what I need to do is to invite you to the Agile Ventures organization, and then create a team for this particular project, and then I will be able to add everyone. Sorry, and I can add everyone to this Trello, to this ZenHub board. So invite your team, or yeah, so I can add Mike directly, I guess. Are you already invited, I guess?
Yeah, I think I'm already there because I own the workspace.
Let's see if I can invite Carl. No.
I think I wasn't there on the day when you guys did that already.
Right, let's see if find it. So people, let me see how this works. Invite a member already in this organization. Okay, so you're already in that organization. So why can't I add you here? Invite you team.
I think if you add him to the project on GitHub, he'll be.
You think so?
On GitHub, you can add him as part of that project.
In settings, right?
Yeah, settings.
Access.
I think so. I can see your password.
No, you cannot. I'm not gonna fall for that twice. You fooled me like that once already. Invite teams, right? So that's you, and I can give you admin access here. Right. So could you guys, if I paste a link to this repo here, can you see if you can access that? I pasted that in the Meet chat. What do you see when you follow that link? Anyone?
Well, first I've got to log in, so I'm just logging in with GitHub.
I see the README.
You see? Do you see the same UI as I see with those columns and everything?
Yes.
All right. Can you add something? Do you see this new issue, for instance?
Yes, the new issue update README. Yes, I do see it.
Okay. But can you create new issues?
Let me see.
For me, it currently says that in the bottom, it's a read-only board. You need to have write permissions in the repo if you want to do something with it.
Okay, so I need to add you here as well, right? So
yeah, I'm gonna add my GitHub name.
Oh yeah, that it says that.
Right. Awesome. Right.
It's a hard one to guess.
Oh, very, very, very well. Very. So let's see. There you go. And I'll give you admin right here. Right, and now when you will get an invite probably. You have to accept that, and so on. So once you guys have given me your GitHub usernames in this Work the Web channel,
I have accepted.
Yeah, good. Then I should be able to see that, and then we just do. Right. Right. So we're just going to say welcome. Okay, so now Crusader, you're in this Work the Web 2021 channel as well. So, right. Good stuff. I think that's, we have 3 minutes left because we want to be on time, right, people? We don't want to overdo this.
Yep.
Yep. So let's see if everyone can give me those GitHub usernames. I will add you to this project repository. We need to address one issue. On Tuesday and on Thursday, we want to, practice coding, do a little bit of talking, and learn about agile development and so on. We need to set up a schedule on when we meet to talk about this this project. Do you understand? Like, so I would like the project work to be running aside of the Work the Web schedule or the curriculum. Is that okay with you guys? Because we do have a lot of stuff to cover. So weekends could be used for this, of course, and these sessions could be used for that, unless we want to practice some of the things we cover in the weekly week sessions. But we should also have like a slot during the week when we meet to discuss this for those who can join. Is there any particular day that will suit you the best at this point? Can we commit to something?
I guess for me it would be easier to gather it with the other sessions, either before or after the session.
That's
Sounds good to me as well.
Yeah. Half an hour before or something like that, or
that would work for me. But yeah, I don't know about the others, of course.
Yeah, I also wanted to say, depending times, since I'm playing Crowfall, the like a computer game there, the core PvP times usually start at 7 p.m. in the evening and then go through the later evening to the night. So if it's somehow possible for everybody to do it before this window, it would be optimal for me to join and maybe not having to juggle or jumping around between two different things and being on two weddings at the same time.
Can we do this? Can we have this discussion async in the Work the Web channel? Like, if Crusader, if you say these would be the best slots for me. Some people, you can use thumbs up, thumbs down. We have emojis on those. So, and we hammer something out, and we have a decision before the Tuesday session, basically. Okay.
Absolutely.
Sounds great. And also propose a few first steps. I can write down, what I would have to see. I would have to see some code, and I can spend a few hours to do some initial code review. Dependent of how sensitive this code is. Initially, we will probably not stream it or anything, but do the initial code review off screen. And Tassilo, whenever you can make that code available to me or to Crusader or Anya or anybody else that could do some initial review. But we can talk about this in the channel. Just make sure that we keep the discussion going in the Work the Web channel on Slack. Okay. Cool. Right. Okay. So I guess that's it, folks. Good discussion today. Is there anything else we need to? Do we need to bring to the table at this point?
One thing, could you add me to the Slack channel? I think I didn't get the invite yet. I posted my email address in the.
Oh, you did? Oh well, I missed that one.
I
Let's
can
see.
I'll send it to you.
Oh yeah, I got you. I got you. I got you. I
Okay,
got you.
good.
You will get that in a second. So basically, if anybody, I think everyone can invite. So you go to Agile Ventures and then you do invite people to Agile Ventures, and then you just paste in this thing, and off you go, right? So that's how you do that. If you want to invite other people, and I just just made a fool of myself. So sorry about that. Right. Yes. Okay. So off I go now. And so do you. Thank you. Yeah, you shouldn't probably paste those things in the open.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, guys. Have a great afternoon. I'm gonna go back to Agent Carter because that's what I can binge watch Marvel series.
Awesome.
See you Tuesday, if not before.
Good night.
All right, guys. See you Tuesday.
Talk
Bye.
talk soon, everyone.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye bye. So long.
Oh, right stream. Yeah, and I don't know how to wake. I will have to. Can you guys even hear me? Oh yeah. Oh, raisin in or. Yeah, I'll have to go eat actually myself. This was again quite spontaneous. But yeah, definitely. So it looks like we are set to start working on that project, Senf.com, and I guess we first need to review the code, open sourceify it, so to say, on GitHub, and I think it's going to be a very interesting project, trying to put it on the Web3 decentralized web. Yeah, first step charity, second step taking on Jeff. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. One step after another. And we'll see. Yeah. Um, I guess Akash is definitely on the list of what we want to do to this as well. So awesome. Okay, guys. I'll thanks a lot for joining, and sorry that I'm a bit always focused on the session, but we will be working on the project over the next couple of weeks. Yeah, thank you so much, Thomas. We are very excited about the project, so thank you for that. I think that's gonna be really awesome. Um, so the project, just quickly to wrap it up for today, because it's been asked, is that's the project, Senf.Köln. So what it is about is for the city of Cologne, which is a German city. It's a map where citizens can propose changes to be made to the city and surroundings, and people can vote on it and comment on those projects, etc., etc. So the founder of this charity project has been working on his own, and he's a self-taught dev. He was starting to be a little bit yeah, he was starting to lower a bit his expectations, because as a one man team, he felt like there was a lot to do, but he wasn't sure how much he could get done. So he was just very, very happy about getting some support. And I guess now the idea is to review the code, implement some tests, make it open source, of course, and then see from there on what we can do, deploy it on the decentralized cloud, add some blockchain features to it, the possibility maybe to vote, comment on a blockchain, or even block some funds if you want to donate to one of the projects on a blockchain. Um, yeah, and I guess there's a lot of other features that the founder would love to implement. Just not sure if we will manage to do them in those 10 weeks, but we'll see. A label called RAD. RAD. Yes. Rad means bicycle in German. Okay, guys. So I guess I should be back on stream tomorrow morning, probably to finish the testing session from last Thursday, and then maybe having a look at the project or at the Cosmos blockchain ecosystem again. Wish you an awesome Sunday night, and hopefully see you very soon. Have a lovely, lovely wrapping up of the week, and a wonderful start Monday if we don't see you tomorrow. Thanks, Nightlight. Thanks, Nightlight. And as always, I will be very happy to stream whatever I'm doing on the project. And maybe some of you guys have brilliant ideas or brilliant input as always. Okay, awesome, Alergasi. Very happy about that. Have a good night, everyone, and talk very soon.